So, I'm going to take you on a little journey back to 30 years ago on this very day. It was a Friday afternoon, and I had just been promoted to the 4th grade. I enjoyed 3rd grade, but my summer would be even more enjoyable. So, we would go on a journey on this day, June 26, 1992. Hey guys, it's your girl, Miss Ep.1. I'm going to do a little story time. It's not going to be so much about me, but it's going to be about the person I'm speaking of. An artist who at the time on this day was just, well, I don't want to say just, but a newcomer into the game. But this person has gone on to become an icon. I won't tell the name yet, but I will definitely post a picture in the thumbnail, and then you will understand it. So this very day, I had got promoted to the 4th grade. And if you were a kid growing up in the 90s at NYC, you remember that the last day of school was always a half a day. Okay? And it will always be from 8:40 to 11:30. Okay? And they would give us a lunch break, which was around about like 10 o'clock or maybe sometimes 10:15. But it was really, instead of the whole hour, it would be pretty much 45 minutes. And they let you do whatever you want. So on the last day of school, you would pick up your report card. You would just pretty much chill with the teacher. Sometimes there would be a little party, snack. And the teacher would, bid her farewells with the class. And you pretty much played games, you talked. And it was really like that the whole week. So I got my report card, and we found out a couple of days prior who our teacher was going to be. But we all found out our grades. And some of us hugged each other. But we all was going to be in the same class in 4th grade. So I leave the building at 11:30, and my grandmother picked me up, and my friend's grandmother picked her up. And so we started talking still, and we ended up getting on the bus a little bit later, around about 12 something. And we didn't live too far from the school. I went to a school called Alfred E. Smith School in New York City, Manhattan to be exact. Is named after the very first presidential candidate who won the Democrat nomination, and he was Catholic. So that school was really named after a historical person. So I was on the bus with my friend Charles Davis. He was kind of like my frenemy, so to speak. And he lived down the block. And there was this lady, because we were arguing. And this lady was like, "Is that your boyfriend?" And my grandmother's getting upset. And she was like, "Woman, you are sick to think that an 8-year-old would have a boyfriend." So she kind of spazzed on the lady. And the lady gets shocked. And I'll never forget, I had on a white t-shirt. I had on a skirt, which was rare. I never really wore skirts. And I had on sneakers. They were white and they were Reeboks. And I wore my pocketbook that had a whole bunch of candy, and it had 2 pencils. Only because just in case I needed to write something, I had my pencils. And I had my sunglasses, and I've been wearing sunglasses since I was about 6 years old. That's a whole nother story. So anyway, I ends up getting off the bus, as well as my friend Charles Davis, and he's going towards 8th Avenue, and I'm on Manhattan Avenue. So we turn the corner, we go upstairs, and then we open the key. And the first thing I do is I turn on the TV to watch BET. And I was an avid BET viewer. I loved Video Soul, and I loved Donnie Simpson. I wanted him to be my brother-in-law. That's a whole nother story time. That's real interesting. I'll do that probably this summer. But anyway, I jump up and down and say, "Yay, Grandma, now I have BET all to myself. I don't have to go to school. All I could do is just watch videos all day until I start summer camp next week." And she was like, "Enjoy it, because when you go to camp, you really won't be having time to watch videos." So I used to go to day camp. But that's another story. So I turn on the TV and I turn it on to BET. And if you know how channels work, to all y'all in the NYC area, you know that BET was pretty much like within the first 20 channels bracket. I believe it was channel 19. So I turn it on and I see this girl. And she's a young woman. And she's wearing a silver outfit. And she has her hair that's like reddish brown. And she's singing a song. And I'm loving this song right away. And so I'm an 8-year-old at the time. And I'm like, this girl can really sing. Oh my God, her voice is almost sort of like Whitney's, but not quite. It's a little bit like kind of hip hop like. That's what I said. And I said, she can sing, Grandma. And Grandma, she said, she can really sing. She's not a Whitney, but she really can sing. She can hold her own. And so I said, I wonder what her name is. I think it might be LaTanya. So my girl was like, I don't know. I've never seen her before. I said, neither have I. I said, but I'm like really interested. I want to know more about her because she's really talented and she's singing like hip hop music. This is my immature mind as 8-year-old. So I see the name and the credits come up. It says Mary J. Blige, You Remind Me. But it reads, You Remind Me, Mary J. Blige, What's the 411, Uptown MCA, and the video directed by. And that's what it used to say. And it was actually the remix with Greg Knights. That was the video, because she did 2 versions. But that was the video that I saw. And I said, her name is Mary. I said, she has an old-fashioned name. But it's nice, though. And my grandma said, yeah, because her mother had common sense. She gave her a name that had meaning to it. And I said, I know, but I thought her name would be LaTanya. Little did I know, she had a sister, her older sister, named LaTanya. Now, how would I piece that together and think that her first name was LaTanya? Now, I wouldn't find out about her sister, let alone her sister's first name, until she was promoting her second album and the song Be Happy, when they were both guests on Teen Summit, BET show. But for now, this is 1992. So I was like, oh my God, I really am a fan of this girl already. I love her. And so what I did was I started, like going to like the magazine places where they would sell magazines on Broadway, at any magazine that she was in. I was like, I have to buy it. I love her music. And every time she was on TV, I would watch the video. And then later on that summer, she had debuted another song called Real Love. And she had debuted the video around about August, like right after summer camp had ended that summer. So I ended up going down south, and they were playing Mary J. Blige music. They weren't really playing You Remind Me, but they was playing Real Love. And Real Love would go on to be number 1, like You Remind Me. But unlike You Remind Me, Real Love would become her first Billboard Hot 100 top 10 hit. It peaked at number 7. And so I'm like, oh no, she's on the radio in Mobile, Alabama. Oh, not only am I going to be listening to her, I'm going to have to get me a radio. And at the time, I never listened to the radio. We come back from down south. I listened to my grandmother's transistor radio just to make sure I'm listening to my new favorite artist, Mary J. Blige. And so I end up hearing all these songs on this radio station that I never really was familiar with, called Kiss FM. And all of a sudden, I hear this song called, and it had a jazzy tune to it. And it went, dum, 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 dum. and it was called Love No Limit. And this was around about September, just when I started 4th grade. And I'm like, I know this is Mary J. Blige, because I could tell by how she would sing. And I said, I was saying girl still. I found out she was 21, so she was technically a woman. But the reason why I said girl was because she was not old enough to be my mother. Whereas Whitney Houston was literally 20 years and 6 days older than me. So I took her as someone who was old enough to be my mom. Mariah Carey was old enough to be my mom, but her music I felt was more adult-like. But Mary J. Blige's music was fun, and it was young at heart. It was hip-hop, which was very young type of music. So I said, this woman, or girl, I said, is going to be an icon. After I heard Nola Love It, and how she was really scatting, like she was like singing jazz music, she gonna be an icon. I said, she gonna be big. And I will always talk about her to my grandma, and I was like, can I buy a magazine that have Mary J. Blige in it? Can I buy Mary J. Blige music, Mary J. Blige album? My grandmother wouldn't let me buy the album because at the time I didn't have any albums. So what I had to do, I had to get a mixtape, which was like a blank cassette, and I had to do mixes. And that's when I started learning how to do mixes in the fall of 92, spring of 93. And I didn't even get her album, and I'm so embarrassed to this day. I didn't start getting her album until like 1994. And I know it was because my family was really funny when it came to spending. That's another whole story. But my aunt, the first album I actually got was SWV and H-Town, and that was like a gift. And I was like, thank you, but can you buy me Mary J. Blige album? They wouldn't buy it. I had to basically go to the Wiz and like get like birthday money and do it on my own. And so pretty much that was my story time of how I first discovered the artist named Mary J. Blige. And I want to say something. The J, I knew it was part of her name, but she was the very first music artist that included her middle initial in her name, her stage name. Now her name is Mary Jane, which is, I think is a cute name. But I was just intrigued by that also. I'm like, she's just so original. What I loved about her, and I still do, but from a little girl's, looking at it through a little girl's eyes, to see somebody who represented urban America and had very good vocal skills and dressed the part and came into the industry just being herself. At that time, everyone wanted to be like Mariah. And she tells the story. And she came in there just dressing like herself. And she wanted to be herself. She didn't want to be like anybody else. And she didn't have, the picket fence life. But still, she was proud of herself. And being a young black woman growing up in the hood, she wanted to represent that so that she could be a voice to all the other young women out there who were struggling and trying to make it in this world. And little did she know, she would become an icon and would birth musically all these other people that are pretty much her musical children, her musical daughters, to be exact. And a lot of them paid homage. One didn't. She shall remain nameless, but for the most part, she's gotten her respect and her due. And I chose to do this story time because I love this period, not just in music, but I love this period of my life, being an 8-year-old. 1992 for me was a poignant year because I felt like it was a year where everything would go right for me. as an 8-year-old, as a 9-year-old. And it was a year, the first full year, where I would really learn about the history of being black. And growing up Catholic, you tend to never get that, appreciation of your blackness. And I embraced it. It was the beginning of me embracing it. So what you hear on my channel and how I speak and the topics I speak about, it all goes back to 1992. Buying the Black History book, the Black History ABCs. I know many of y'all probably have that book. Buying Now Is Your Time. Reading the Black Achievement book series. All those things shaped and molded me as a person I am now. Another thing, too, is that I, as a person, also became really proud of being black. Like, I never was so much ashamed of it before, but I became proud of, having 4B hair and being proud of where I lived in my community. And I came to accept that I didn't grow up in a home. And I love the fact that there were people in the music industry and even in Hollywood that came on experiences and looked like me. And it was just a great time, I would say, to be a black little girl. And black little girls now, I don't care what anyone say, yes, it seems like it's getting better, but it's a little weird. Like, the 90s wasn't like that. The 90s, we played hopscotch, we jumped rope. Some of us danced, some of us sang, some of us were acting. Some of us were bike riding. I wasn't one of those kids. We would go into the park. We would discover music, different activities. And the best thing about it was in the 90s kids were allowed to be 90s kids. You could rollerblade, do things like that. Today's kids don't know how to play. Today's kids don't even know how to operate a CD player. They don't know what a Walkman is. And the worst thing, they don't even know what real music is. They don't know what real music is. They think Travis Scott is a singer as well as a rapper. That is scary. And I just wish we can go back to the essence of 92, which was the crossroad year of hip-hop. That was the year that hip-hop officially crossed over into the mainstream music sphere. Shout out to 1992, one of the greatest years of my life. I would say the last year of before losing people, if you know what I mean. And the year where it was great to be a kid. And just really having my whole family here with me. I loved it. And I just love the fact that I predicted that Mary J. Blige would be an icon. And she became that. And I'm happy for her. But I wanted to share that little story time. And with that being said, it's your girl, Miss Little Calm, signing out. Thank you and have a great day.